What's up, guys? My name is Brandon. You guys can call me Swifterrs, and welcome back to a brand new Fortnite video here on my channel. Today, I'm so excited to be bringing you guys 5 things that should return to Fortnite Battle Royale. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at every single thing that was removed from the game, and I'm going to be bringing you guys my top 5 list of 5 things that I personally think that the developers should bring back to Fortnite. Now, I want you guys right now to let me know down in the comment section below if there is any item, weapon, character skin, location, feature, whatever it may be that the developers have removed from Fortnite. What would you guys like to see them bring back to the game? So with all of that out of the way, let's get started with today's video, taking a look at 5 things that should return in Fortnite Battle Royale. Alrighty, guys, so the very first thing that the developers have removed from Fortnite Battle Royale that I personally think absolutely needs to come back to the game is actually a location. This is Dusty Depot. I don't know about you guys, but I absolutely hate Dusty Divot. It was kind of fun to land there when it first came to Fortnite back with the 4.0 patch update that introduced Season 4, but after just 2 to 3 days, I hated Dusty Divot, and I honestly never land there aside from when there's challenges that I need to complete, and getting out of the actual crater sometimes is such a pain in the butt. Now, I'm hopeful that people could agree with me when I say that Dusty Depot is so much better than Dusty Divot, and personally, I like Dusty Depot for a couple of different reasons. First off, there really isn't all that much good loot here in my opinion, so landing here at the very start of the game really isn't that good of an idea, and honestly, that's why I like it. It requires people to land on nearby towns and nearby locations, and then if you're playing squads, people pretty much use Dusty Depot as a battle location. People always sort of meet up here and they try to claim Dusty Depot for themselves, and that's something that I really like about Dusty Depot compared to Dusty Divot. Now, the main reason why I like Dusty Depot is honestly because it's not Dusty Divot. And now, I don't know about you guys, but I absolutely think that Dusty Divot needs to be removed from Fortnite. I'm not a fan of it at all, and honestly, I much preferred the giant open valley that was in place of Dusty Divot. Unfortunately, and now all we have is a gigantic crater in the dead center of the map. I much preferred the open valley where you were pretty vulnerable to enemies if you were walking across it, so that's just my personal opinion. I think that Dusty Depot absolutely needs to return to Fortnite. So, moving on to the next thing that I think the developers should bring back to Fortnite Battle Royale. This is actually another location, and it sort of goes hand in hand with a Dusty Depot. And honestly, it circles around the whole premise of removing Dusty Divot. This is the factories by originally Dusty Depot, and in between Retail Row and Salty Springs. These factories were so much fun to go to, and honestly, it was sort of a staple within the Fortnite community. Unfortunately, with the 4.0 patch update that introduced Season 4 and gave us that god-awful crater in the center of the map, the factories were unfortunately removed from the game. Now, fortunately, there's sort of a different location on the map down by Flush Factory that has these exact same factories, but honestly, it's really not the same. The location of these factories in between these 2 giant cities, being Salty Springs and Retail Row, was really central to gameplay, and I don't know about you guys, but I actually thought that these factories were a pretty underrated location to land, and it was actually a location where I enjoyed landing, getting my loot, and then running into Retail Row to kill unsuspecting enemies. So, as I said, both of those 2 things were obviously removed with the introduction of Season 4 and when we had Dusty Divot added to the game. So, both of those things, I don't necessarily know if they're going to be coming back just because I don't know if the developers have decided to remove Dusty Divot in an upcoming update. Now, I think that the community is pretty set on not liking Dusty Divot, but that's my personal opinion. I don't like that location, and I'm super curious to hear your guys' feedback on that particular topic. But I've got my fingers crossed that hopefully a Dusty Divot is removed and we get back our beloved factories and Dusty Depot. So, moving on to the next thing which has been removed from Fortnite Battle Royale that I personally think the developers should bring back to the game, but maybe in a little bit of a different manner than it once originally was. This is sort of a controversial item, but here we have the guided missile. Now, when I say I want the guided missile to return, I may not necessarily mean the actual guided missile and how it actually was when it was first in the game back with, I believe, patch volume 3.5. So, I don't know about you guys, but I honestly thought that the guided missile was a little bit overpowered, especially if you're playing squads and 4 enemies on a team are just shooting guided missiles at you back to back to back to back. So in that sense, the guided missile was definitely overpowered. But I do think that the developers should bring back the guided missile, but maybe instead of it actually doing explosive damage, it would be really awesome if the guided missile wasn't actually a missile and instead it was sort of a UAV that allowed you guys to shoot a missile out and sort of do reconnaissance over the area just so you could pretty much see exactly where everyone was. This could be a really awesome tool that wouldn't inflict any damage on an enemy, and it wouldn't inflict any damage on you if you accidentally exploded yourself. Instead, it would basically just be an item that allowed you guys to get a better view of the overall lay of the land just to see where everyone is, and I definitely think that the developers could implement this into the game very, very well. So instead of it being a guided missile, it could just be a guided UAV. So, moving on to the next thing, which the developers have removed, but of course, I think that they should bring back to the game. This is a weapon that was removed with patch volume 4.0. So, right when Season 4 came to the game, this item was removed, and I honestly don't know why. This is the Crossbow. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I don't think the Crossbow is that great of a weapon. I honestly never really use it all that much. At the same time, I think what the developers did with the Crossbow was actually a really cool concept. Basically, the Crossbow is an item that has unlimited ammunition. So if you're running low on ammo or you don't have any ammo, you are in luck if you have a Crossbow, just because you are never going to run out of ammo. On top of that, if you don't have a long-ranged weapon, having a Crossbow could be useful just to sort of look farther distances, even if you aren't trying to kill anyone with it. But overall, I don't necessarily know why the Crossbow was removed from the game. Maybe it had something to do with it no longer being Valentine's Day, but that honestly doesn't make any sense because the developers constantly bring back the Valentine's Day skins, being the Cuddle Team Leader and the Love Ranger. Regardless, I do think the Crossbow was an item that actually a lot of people really liked. Even though I personally didn't use it all that much, it's an item I definitely think needs to return to the game. So, moving on to the fifth and final item that the developers have removed from Fortnite Battle Royale, but I personally think it needs to return. This is an item I'm almost positive that none of us have actually used or even seen, and I would go so far as to say that there are only a few amount of people that have actually used this weapon. This was removed from Fortnite with patch volume 1.6. It is by far the most overpowered weapon in the game. This is the Zappa Tron. Now, the Zappa Tron is by far the rarest weapon in the game, and it's basically a sniper that deals an electric zap, absolutely obliterating enemies. It's a really crazy looking item, and I'm honestly a little bit surprised that the developers decided to remove it from the game back with patch volume 1.6, and I honestly don't know why. Maybe they thought it was a little bit too overpowered. Maybe they thought that the Zappa Tron didn't necessarily fit within Fortnite Battle Royale. But the Zappa Tron, if I'm not mistaken, is in the Save the World version. But it's also possible that the developers may have removed it from Save the World when they removed it from Fortnite Battle Royale. Regardless, all that I know is I actually want the Zappa Tron to return. Maybe the developers could make it so it's not super overpowered, killing enemies instantaneously. I think that the developers could tone down the damage so it's not crazy overpowered. At the same time, I would personally love to see the Zappa Tron come back to Fortnite Battle Royale because, as I mentioned earlier, I'm sure it's a weapon that none of us had the opportunity to use. So I think if the developers brought it back and toned down the damage, it could be a really fun item to use. On top of that, I honestly think that we need one super weapon in the game. Imagine just having one mega wonder weapon that everyone in the game wants to get, and you know if you get it, you're definitely going to be at an advantage over your enemies. Overall, I definitely think that adding the Zappa Tron back to Fortnite Battle Royale is something that the Fortnite community would love to have in the game. overall, guys, there you have it. Those were 5 things that I would personally love to see return to Fortnite Battle Royale. As I mentioned in the beginning of today's video, if there's anything else that I didn't mention in today's video that you guys would like to see brought back to Fortnite, let me know what it is in the comment section below. Regardless, guys, that's going to be it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please be sure to drop a like down below. Subscribe if you're new. If you guys have yet to do so, be sure to turn on those post notifications because I do upload daily Fortnite content here on my channel. With all of that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll be sure to catch you guys later.